This is our Quarks, Chaos, and Christianity, part 3 of 5 parts. I gave this 10 years ago, and here I am giving it again, and I'm very blessed to be able to do so. As you know from the other parts, this comes from a book from John Polkinghorne, who was a theoretical physicist turned Anglican priest. And he did so because he said, I think I've done enough for the physics world, and it's time for me to take my knowledge and skill into the religious area to try to influence those who don't believe in God. Now, if you remember from part 1, that question, there was a question there that said, is anyone there? Why can we do science at all? And the answer was because humanity is made in the mind, the image of God. You'll probably remember that. And then there was a second question that was asked was, why is the universe so special? Why are we actually able to exist here on this planet? And there were 2 answers. One was, there are a number of universes, but we're on the one that allows for life. Or the second answer could be, there is only one universe, and it's fine-tuned for life because the Creator God desires it to be so. And then in part 2, that was all about what's been going on. And at the conclusion, we summarized that it's a universe of space and time. 13.7 billion years ago, there was the Big Bang, and God set it all in motion to be able to sustain a universe of space and time. It's a universe other than God that has reliability and independence. It's an evolving and fruitful universe with galaxies, stars, planets, and then voila, us. It's a universe making itself that has come about by the 2 factors of chance and necessity. And it's a universe of rough edges where we have moral and physical evil and free will and free process. I mean, there was a virus that existed in these bats. And through free will and free process, and by the nature of what people can do, the virus hopped into humanity, and here we are with it. So now, today's part is part 3, which is, we ask, who are we? Now, as Christians, we know, but imagine you had nothing to do with Christianity, and you could ponder these questions, which some people might be asking, well, who am I? So there's a couple of questions we might want to ask ourselves. Does science tell us we are merely computers made of meat? Or does science still leave open the possibility we are much more? So, another question to ask. Are we just a collection of parts, matter, that you take a look around us, everywhere on Earth? If we were to investigate what any object is made up of, say some matter, say a cube, and we drill into it, we find that matter is made up of crystal molecular bonds. And if you go inside those molecular complex molecules, you'll find atoms. Inside atoms, you'll have a nucleus with neutrons and protons. And inside there, you have this nucleon structure. And inside there, you have quarks. So the question is, are we just a bunch of parts made up of stuff? Now, we know that's probably not exactly true, but if you're a theoretical physicist, you might think, are we a collection of parts? And it can, of course, be in 2 answers. One answer would be, yes, we are just a bunch of parts. I'm a reductionist. I believe the whole just simply reduces to a bunch of parts. You would be called a nutting butter. Nothing butters, because we are nothing but a collection of elementary particles. Or you could be, as the anti-reductionist says, we're more than just parts. The whole is more than the simple parts. So then you could have some comments about these 2 thoughts. Well, if we just think we're a bunch of parts, then all science is either physics or stamp collecting, just a bunch of parts, and there's the basic physics that we know and see. And we know there's this thought that physics is fundamentally all that there is, and this biological thing that we're made up of is just some complicated sequence of a bunch of stuff coming together that we can just equate to be complicated physics. So that might be your thinking if you're coming from this from a pure scientific perspective. You just see it as, we're parts, it's all physics, there's some biology in there, but so what? But we don't believe that as Christians. So we ask the question, what does it take to bring about life? Does it require some extra magic ingredient that's other than matter? The answer is life is more than its parts. There's this concept of vitalism. Life involves something more that makes it alive. There's also this notion of emergence. New things emerge into more complicated things that have no meaning by themselves. Think of the coronavirus. In a bat, in its own little world, we have no awareness of it. It has no meaning to us, but we sure have a lot of meaning about it now. And it's emerged onto our psyche and into our lives. So let's think about emergence. There is evidence in science of new properties emerging as a structure that grows in complexity, properties that have no meaning when you focus on their parts. Let's think about the wetness of water. If you look at the molecules, the H2O molecules, they alone are not wet. But when you combine them or we experience them, we get this notion of wetness. So is the wetness a property of water, or is it a description of how we experience it? But in any case, this wetness is this new emerging party that has meaning outside of its individual H2O. So let's drill on this emergence. A more profound property has emerged in the most complex known structure in the universe. The human brain, consciousness. We think, we know, we are aware. Consciousness, by definition, is the quality of the state of being aware, especially of something within oneself, or the state or fact of being conscious of an external object, a state, or a fact. So, the universe is aware of itself. Through science, we have learned about the remarkable story of the universe's evolution. A hot plasma of quarks and gluons and other elementary particles evolved into this vast world of planets, stars, galaxies, clusters of galaxies, superclusters. That we formed out, that life has formed out of it. And out of this chemical soup of the primitive planet Earth became more diverse, complex structures and molecules with the arrival of us, human beings. And we became aware of it all. This is an emergence, is consciousness. Now, so let's ask ourselves these questions as a theoretical physicist might do. Is consciousness to be thought of as this superficial fluff or froth produced as a side effect of all these molecules and pieces and parts coming together to form the human brain? Or is consciousness something new, the greatest achievement of the evolving universe that God has created and started out? Or are we thought of as computers, where we would think it unethical to pull the plug of the power supply? So there's this mystery that Polkinghorne calls the mind-brain problem. Polkinghorne asserts that consciousness remains a profound mystery, that we are no near solving the mind-brain problem. Our minds, our awareness, our thoughts, our wills, our experiences of beauty are linked some way to our brains. A hammer blow to the head will affirm this. The mind is not just what the brain does in simple physical terms. The emergence of consciousness is something radically new that can't be explained, say, by energy alone or for some individual part. Our minds cannot be reduced, as the reductionists would say, to just a group of brain cells. Something more mysterious is going on. So continuing with the mind-brain problem. Imagine this. We would all sit up if someone here on this WebEx or this web conference would start to use their power of thoughts to start levitating an inanimate object, say a cube. We would all be amazed. But we would be less impressed if the person then picked up a cube and raised it with their hand. Yet, was that not a levitation by the power of thought? So, as you know, just like Jesus, and as I've done in several of these other parts, we've taken a parable. Let's look at the parable of the Chinese room, because we are more than computers made of meat. A philosopher by the name of John Zero made this point in his parable of the Chinese room. You are seated in an enclosed office with two grills. Through one grill, you receive pieces of paper with some writing on it, with mysterious squiggles. You match the squiggles in the box that is next to the one that is the match, finally handing out this last squiggle through the second grill. You don't have the slightest idea what is going on. In fact, what is happening is that the squiggles are questions, and the appropriate answer is in Chinese. Understanding lies neither in you, the computer, nor the book, the program, but on the outside of the room is where the understanding comes, with the person who compiled the book, the programmer. Computers are great logical operations, syntax. They can figure that out, but they lack human capacity for meaning. Thinking exceeds computation. We are more than computers made of meat. So there's glimmers from science about this mystery of consciousness and the mind-brain problem. The physical world is not completely mechanical. Keep that thought in mind. And the physical world is interconnected. And this notion of not quite mechanical and interconnected is found in what's called the chaos theory of quantum mechanics. Again, don't get afraid here with this whole quantum mechanics thought. I think I've been keeping everything pretty basic for everybody. But there are complex theory here involved with the physical world. Now, quantum mechanics is weird, really weird. It defines, if you really read it and try to understand it at some level, our common sense intuition of what things are and what they can do. Things can exist in more than one place. It's unpredictable, but don't let it overwhelm you. Just accept that it's weird. Even the theoretical physicist thinks quantum mechanics is weird. It just is what it is. But let's dive in just a little bit more into this chaos theory concept. Now, through this profound interconnectedness in the physical world, the physical reality can be found in what we can see in our eye, with our eyes as the chaos theory. Many physical systems are interconnected and well-behaved. We can predict their future behavior mechanically. Clocks, everything ticks off in a predicted way. Many things in the world behave this way. The sun comes up in a predictable manner. Airplanes fly and land in a predictable manner. If you throw something up in the air, it's going to drop down. Very predictable. But there are things that are not as predictable as my meteorology son would prove to say. Clouds. Clouds display a chaotic behavior. They are sensitive to initial conditions, which can tailor and change how they're going to manifest themselves as clouds and where they're going to be. This understanding of this cloud behavior can be chaotic. Wildly different things can happen based on initial conditions or other things that happen along the way. So, allow us to say that a world that has more clouds, more chaos than clocks, there is this interconnectedness that defies what a reductionist would call just parts. Splitting the world into lots of little pieces will not work. So, here we get to the point. Who are we? Now, there's this inadequacy of this parts view. Science is only beginning to understand complex systems, and science cannot tell us who we are. We are not computers made of meat or just genetic survival machines. Continuing with this inadequacy, the interconnectedness of a physical reality is found in the chaos theory, which suggests that this just parts view of who we are is not adequate. Now, in searching for the answer of who we are, we, and as Polkinghorne would say, scientists or others should resist this deprived experience of human experience. We must not ignore the human experience data of artists, the human experience of artists, that the world is a carrier of beauty. Our aesthetic experience isn't just an emotional byproduct of hardwiring of our brains. The human experience of writers, that the world is in an arena of moral choice and responsibility. The human experience of saints, Christians, us, who testify to the encounters with the ultimate reality beyond us, and yet also nearer to us than breathing. Reductionists will try to explain our experience as non-scientific aspects of the human experience. For them, music is just vibrations of the air. The Mona Lisa painting is just a collection of paint specks of a chemical composition. Ethical intentions of saints and Christians are just survival strategies programmed by us, by selfish genes. The scientists would tell us it's just your parts that are causing you to have your more holistic human experience. But who are we? A belief in God explains our rich reality. The will and nature of God underlines and unifies the varieties of that human experience, making the human experience understandable. The scientific explorations we're able to do are the insights into this logical order God has endowed the universe. The experience of beauty are a sharing in God's joy in creation. The moral perceptions are intuitions of God's good and perfect will. Religious experiences are encounters with the hidden divine presence of our Creator God, which is a whole and satisfying view. I repeat, whole, not parts. So, who are we? We are God's children, God's whole creation, not just a bunch of pieces and parts, but a whole, God's whole. Hallelujah, thank God. So, as you recall, is anyone there? The answer was yes from part 1. What's been going on? A lot. 2, who are we? We are not just parts. We are a whole creation from God, not just a bunch of physical, chemical reactions that cause us to act and behave as we do. And part 4 will go into prayers and miracles, and part 5 will be how it will end. Thank you.